Well, really, it's one of our favorite weeks of the year here on Jay and Dave Sports Bar. We get to go to Las Vegas to cover a football game. He's Dave Southern of The Athletic. I'm Jay Testa, sports director over at KTVP. And I'm sorry, I don't care. The trip to Las Vegas, I don't care how many times we go, whether it be for basketball, media days, football games, bowl games, every time I'm all in.
Hell yeah, dude! It's the best. I mean, I have been out there. I think I figured it out since that first Vegas Bowl. Mm-hmm. So the one against Utah. I think for fun, I've been a couple times, but my total trip now, I think, is 28. This will be my 29th since then.
Got to be somewhere in that neighborhood.
And I've missed some like basketball tournaments and stuff like that. So it could have been more.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, I feel like I actually might be catching you because you had a little bit of a jump start.
Yep. Yeah, you're probably coming close.
I've been going to basketball tournaments, so maybe I have finally caught you.
It's amazing. I mean, I think it's the most fun, and like what's kind of cool about it is.
By the way, I am now checked in for my flight.
Oh, there you go. Good man. I mean, personally, like when we talk about covering bowl games, yes, I'm extremely biased about wanting to cover that game, partially because of this. You work during the day, and you get done, and at night it's like, okay, what do we have to do?
Yeah,
there's everything there.
There's everything,
and that's the best part of it.
Well, and half the places you go to in the Mountain West, like. After a game, you can't eat.
Exactly.
Like there's nothing open. Or you go to Wyoming and you go down to the front desk.
Tip of the hat to Logan, Utah.
Yeah. No offense to Wyoming or anybody that might be going there to work in the near future. But we went there and we would go down to the front desk of our hotel and it's like, hey, can you suggest a place for us to eat?
Yeah.
And they looked at us and they said, well, Applebee's is pretty good.
I told you my story about that, right?
I think we've been maybe down this road before.
Well, so
you want a local good place.
Yeah.
Not Applebee's. There's an Applebee's like literally 4 minutes from my house.
That was I talked to Austin Carter Samuels.
Oh yes, okay, boom.
And I'd never been to Laramie at that point, and I was like, can you recommend a restaurant? And he looked without hesitation. He goes, Chili's. And I was like, is that Chili's with an E on the end of it?
Yeah,
is it just a little different?
Yeah.
No.
Is it a guy, Chili Davis? I don't. Anybody? Like, does he have a steak shop there? Nothing. Okay, nope. Yes. Chili's.
Famous twin slugger, Chili Davis, in Laramie, Wyoming. But that's like, our buddy Dayton asked a question in my mailbag this week on The Athletic, and I'm going to answer it. And it's the question.
What's up, Dayton?
It's one of those questions that I probably ponder too long. Asked like the best Mountain West road trip. And I was like, like Vegas is way up there for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I go once every 4 years, at least for if you want to call it a conference trip. And what I liked about it, but like I was saying, when you cover a bowl game, we work during the day.
Yep.
We work. Trust me. So when we travel for bowl games, we're working. But at night when you're done, you have unlimited options in Vegas. The Hawaii Bowl is the worst for that reason. Because guess what? Most people don't go to Honolulu for the nightlife. I mean, there is stuff going on. But you can't go to the beach. We never can. You know what I mean? Because we're working during the day. That's always my defense when people are going, you got to go to Hawaii. It's like, nah.
Actually,
you don't get to do the fun stuff.
A former coach that, Rob Akey used to coach up at the University of Idaho, and his wife was telling me like that's actually a trip that she never really even liked to. I mean, I don't know if I'm trying to recall the story correctly, but that was one trip that like you kind of almost like would even skip because it really is the business trip, if you will, where you go in, you work, and then you leave. Like there's just no time to like there's that 3 hour window to go lay on the sun and before you go cover a game. So. Either way, this is an awesome trip.
This one's way up there.
Way up there. It's probably not fair to compare it to some of the other places for the sake of trying to go a little further. I never mind going to San Diego, and Fort Collins is a good trip, especially that new stadium now. They got some. Oh no!
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
I think I got some good places to eat.
My connection to the stadium, and then of course I have an anti-connection to CSU. Of course, that trip's great. Whenever I go, though, I don't go to Fort Collins. I'm always in Denver, but still.
I go to Denver.
But
is that the Broncos one?
Oh. I don't know why. That's one of my weird things. So I grew up loving The Simpsons and the Broncos. And if anybody saw my thread on Twitter, on my phone,
this turned into a thread last night?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay, I got to go back.
I
think I just saw the first one.
There's like
first tweet.
6 of them.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Every time that they would mention it on TV, so on FXX, they always have the old Simpsons episodes, which is a godsend. But whenever they mention the Broncos, I would be like, okay, I have to record it on my phone just for own personal hilarity. And they have referenced them more. They have to reference them more than any other team. Maybe the Patriots or the Cowboys.
Well, what does that say about where the Simpsons are from?
They're from Oregon, right? Isn't that the thing? But there was one on this weekend's one.
By the way, I haven't watched The Simpsons in a long time. Are they actually?
I hadn't either.
Are they really from Oregon now?
Apparently. Well, that's the thing. That's what they've figured out, and maybe Matt Groening said it was.
Okay.
But I don't think they actually
it's
acknowledge
not definitive,
it.
though?
Right.
Okay,
Right.
So it's still a little out there.
Because he grew up there and whatever.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, it was in the John Elway one where when he goes in witness protection, wants to be Elway and scores in the last second, and final score is 56-7. Yeah, it's good. It's good though.
You want to talk about the outcome of games, or maybe intermix whatever, how everybody kind of views Vegas, and you talk about spreads. Boise State opened as slightly less than a 3-touchdown favorite, and now they are ticking up towards a 4-touchdown favorite over the Rebels. One thing that we know about Las Vegas is the Boise State football team feels perfectly comfortable playing at Sam Boyd Stadium.
Yeah.
It regardless of their opponent, and the reason why I say that is obviously because of the Las Vegas Bowl, regardless of the opponent, Boise State shows up and usually shows out down there in Sin City.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Just like kind of going back and thinking about it. I've been fortunate enough to be at every single one of those now 6 games.
I missed Utah.
You missed Utah.
I've been at every other one.
Well, you had an excuse because you weren't working here yet.
Yes, correct. It's been really weird sending the KOW sports director down there for just one random game.
Maybe they could have, yeah, but like being there for all of them and stuff, and just kind of looking back on how those games went, and just how damn good they've always played. Yeah. It's pretty impressive, just to consistently do that. Like even when they beat Washington, and it was, that was the only one that was less than 10, right?
Yep. And
even then, it was still an interesting game, and they still won, and they had a game-winning kick.
Yep.
Which, I'm trying to remember last time I did that. Anthony Montgomery in 2006. Maybe it's the only one I can think of. Someone that had a field goal that won it for Boise State, right? And Michael Frasina hit it, and that was one of my favorite Murph things. Murph talked to him and said, "You'll never have to buy a drink in Boise again." And Frasina works at Stanford now, by the way. But he apparently told Murph, he goes, "I don't drink, but I'll let him buy me a lemonade." I was like,
that works.
It's very kickerish, but also I thought it was a pretty good one. I remember that just being in Vegas, like there's always something down there that's happening or that's interesting, and that's another reason to look forward to this one because, as you said, may not be the most interesting game.
Yeah, this team is bad. I know that nobody over at the Boise State football complex would ever admit that, nor do they need to. But
they play hard.
They play hard, right? I mean, if that's all you can say about them, maybe there you go.
It's the old Coach Pete thing. Whenever you say that, you're usually like, oh, they're going to beat the crap out of this team.
Is that the way that it went?
Yeah,
I was only here for a short amount of time during Coach Pete. So Boise State releases their game notes every week, and once you kind of get midway through them or so page 42 or however many pages there are, they kind of list the Boise State's season stats and how they compare to the opponents. And now the categories stay the same every week. They just swap out the opposition. And so it's not like Boise State's trying to make UNLV bad. The Rebels make themselves look bad. They rank in the bottom half of college football in all but one category, and we're talking about, again, like 15, 20 categories on the sheet.
The main ones,
yeah,
right?
And the only one that they rank in the upper half of college football is rushing yards per game. They got a good running back. We'll give them that. It seemed like he was questionable earlier in the week, but it appears that signs are pointing in the direction that he's going to play.
Charles Williams is going to play.
Yeah. And so, but outside of that, man, I don't know. I'm really disappointed that their quarterback hasn't developed a little bit more over the years. As a freshman, he looked really good and had some really good moments, but just not much in terms of his development.
And I think that's maybe a bit of a condemnation on the coaching staff. The fact that the guy can come in like that and be kind of, they I don't know if it was a media creation or not, but that he was kind of this baby Cam, you know what I mean? That he
similar
was
size,
number one,
can run a little bit,
number one, and Armani Rogers obviously had that good freshman year. I'm trying to remember that year. I thought there was maybe someone else that I voted for. Mm-hmm. I voted for someone else, just kind of thinking like, oh, it's UNLV,
Yeah.
And then, but I think he's actually hasn't really progressed, and I know that he's another guy that's kind of questionable. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and maybe that's a good thing for the program, though, because maybe it puts that team in a different direction by trying something new. Speaking of something new, I don't even know if you can hear any of the noise in the background. I thought that maybe you could for just a second. Our newsroom at KTVB is getting completely redone. It's getting completely gutted, and they're working on it right now. We have a pretty thick wall between us and the newsroom. It's on the other side of that. But either way, you might hear some hammering or some walls falling down or some glass breaking or whatever. It's going to be sweet once it's done. But man, are we crammed into corners of KTVB right now?
There's people walking just working in the hallway.
Yeah.
And we maybe next week we'll just record one of these at one of our houses. But then the dogs will go bark. Oh man,
yeah, Wrigley would never make it through one of these. He would never make it through a full podcast.
UNLV hired a high school coach, Tony Sanchez. Really nice guy, and he cares about Vegas and stuff like that. But it's just there needs to be something unique there. I don't know if they have to run the option or if they run an air raid or something. Mm-hmm. They need to do something like that, in my opinion.
That's why Air Force runs the option. That's why Nick Rolovich runs the run and shoot. Like you have to do something different. I'll go to my alma mater in Pullman, even though I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about them right now due to their two recent performances. But again, Mike Leach in what he does, it's something different in a place that can't necessarily get top tier talent and have traditional success. You have to do something a little outside of the box, a little different. And
it's even what Bob Davies tried at New Mexico, and that hasn't quite worked. But again, there
How much more did New Mexico scare you though on the schedule? Okay, let's phrase it this way.
There was at least 2 years where they did for Boise State, and they beat them, and then
they really did.
Actually 3.
Now they're not really doing it as much anymore.
Right.
And so you look at the schedule, and for me, I'm saying that's probably the easiest game left on Boise State's schedule because it's here, it's at home,
and
if they still ran the triple option, though, you kind of have a little bit of reservation there, right? To I don't know, maybe.
I wonder if by then, if Davies even would be coaching.
Yeah, great question.
I know he said that he had his health issues.
Yes.
But, just record-wise, if it's going to be time to move on. Mm-hmm. They're cast strapped there probably more so than anybody in the conference. Mm-hmm. Yeah, San Jose State with the exception. Yeah. But so that's probably the reason that they kept them for another year. But they've gotten stagnant. UNLV's gotten stagnant, so... But you're talking about that New Mexico game. It's a good debate, and it's a question that I've got before is, what are the toughest games or what are the easiest games left? Mm-hmm. So we've got 8 regular season games left. So we're a third of the way through it. They're a month through it. They're usually really good in October.
Good in October.
That's the thing I found this week. Holy crap! I didn't realize since they lost their first ever WAC road game, which was at Rice, October 6th, 2001. They're 68-4 in October.
Yep.
That's insane.
That's insane.
That is from Dan Hawkins through Pete through Brian Harsin. Mm-hmm. So, and I think about I think Harsin's lost 3 of those, and they were 2 of them for sure were Wyoming and San Diego State.
Yeah, and the last time that Boise State was ranked this high this early in the season was heading into that Wyoming game a few years ago.
Yes,
last time
true.
They've been ranked in the top 15, 16 at the end of September.
And I think even with that game, when I remember we were leading up to that game, it was I think we knew it was going to be a challenging game. And they had some dudes. Josh Allen, everyone remembers, but they had NFL guys at running back. They had Brian Hill as a running back. They had Jacob Hollister as tight end, so he's been in the NFL. The receiver, the kid who played for Chicago, the one who caught it, Gentry. Yeah. He's been in the NFL. Yeah. Roulier, the center.
Yeah,
they had some NFL dudes on that team.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's the rest of the way there's teams like that.
Yeah, definitely not UNLV, that's for sure. I think what it comes down to is this, and if you want to find motivation or ways to motivate, there's not There's probably really nobody, but maybe David Moa that experienced that. Was it the 15 upset to New Mexico? When
Yes.
Boise State was a 31-point favorite and they lost here on the blue. That was an extreme upset. But I guess what I'm trying to get to is every single year, Boise State during the Brian Harsin era has been upset by a team where the Broncos have been favored by double digits. Now this is an extreme case because again we're working with 24.5 points or whatever. But New Mexico was a 31-point dog on the blue. And upset the Broncos. So I do think there is that one thing. I think that Brian Harsin's accomplished a lot here. But if there is one thing that kind of a cloud that you're kind of waiting for it to turn into a storm, is that one game a year,
the clunker,
where you can't explain why something happens.
Yep.
And so I would be really surprised if that happens against UNLV. I mean, absolutely shocked, floored, wouldn't even believe it. But I do think that is a motivating thing, and Kekala Kaniho kind of did say that today, or alluded to, hey, we know the history. Like, we know that there usually is a game where a team shouldn't win, and they do, and they somehow beat us. And there's a lot at stake right now for this Boise State football team. So if you're looking for something to push your focus, I think that's it right there.
Yeah, the fact that they are right now in the driver's seat to get that Cotton Bowl berth. And the fact that the schedule does kind of lend itself to potentially having a nice season, continuing this level of success, this unbeaten run. I think they can continue it because they've got the schedule bears out pretty well. And I wrote about it this week, and we saw news that came out even Tuesday about BYU with Zach Hill being out, or Zach Wilson.
Zach Hill's out?
No, I saw him today. He's healthy. But with Zach Wilson maybe being out for that game, for that BYU game. That stacks up nicely for Boise State.
Really nicely.
Granted, they have Hawaii that's still on deck. Is that Hawaii game maybe the toughest one? What do you think?
I think it is. I mean, you have Utah State at the end of the season. I don't know why. Utah State just doesn't scare me that much.
Yeah, and
I know they got a great quarterback and they got some guys that can run the ball, but they still lost a lot off last year's team. And to this point, Jordan Love hasn't quite been the Jordan Love he was last year.
Sure.
I mean, he was 32 touchdowns and 8 picks, maybe even less than that. And his ratio is 6 touchdowns to 5 picks this year. So he had, and they played some good teams. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. They just don't scare me as much as a team like Hawaii because you play the run and shoot. That will be different. Now, Utah State's pace will be different than what Boise State normally faces, but I don't know. I think Utah or Hawaii is the one that is a little more of an attention grabber for me.
And like Utah State has been winning in a different way maybe than last year. Last year they were putting up 50-something regularly. But they're not doing that this year. But they've only lost one game, and they lost a very close game that they maybe should have won against Wake, who's now a top 25 team.
And Wake is a
road.
good team. So you know what? Maybe you're talking me into this, Dave. Maybe I should give them more credit.
They beat San Diego State, which is great. They won at San Diego State. That's not easy to do.
Yeah.
But but they only beat CSU by 10.
Yeah.
And they did some dumb stuff in that game.
There's some weather, but
that was at home.
All right. No, I'm going in the different direction. Okay, I'm worried about it.
But I'm saying that I think people should be worried about them. But again, there was a question this week that I'm going to try to attack is the question was, is Hawaii the toughest one left? And I've always been staunch on it's going to be Utah State. And I still lean that way a little bit more. But as the weeks have gone on, Hawaii's more of a threat. Maybe Utah State's slightly less.
Hawaii's coming off a bye.
They're coming off a bye.
Nick Rolovich has done a lot for that program. And this would be a huge
signature
victory
for anybody, for most guys.
The signature victory of the Rolovich era for him. Now we're probably getting a week ahead of ourselves.
We are.
I get it.
Well, and here we are saying.
But it is kind of hard not to look ahead or at other opponents when we're talking about how bad UNLV is. Let's get back to October and how Boise State has kind of owned this month. And another thing that, outside of just having an outstanding record, something that going through some stuff, some historical data this week, I think that we're about to see Robert Mahone take off. And we'll see how much he can carry, and I could be completely wrong because it really has been kind of hard to peg whether it's going to be George Halani or Robert Mahone or who's going to get the carries there. You look at the depth chart, and Andrew Van Buren is still RB2, and he's barely had any touches all season. But if you do look at the Brian Harsin era, every single year there is a huge jump in production for Boise State's starting running back from September to October. And believe it or not, Robert Mahone, who leaves September averaging 72 yards per game, in the 6 seasons that Brian Harsin has been here, that's actually the 3rd highest total for Boise State starting running back coming out of that month, and it's higher than any total that Alexander Madison ever put forth.
Madison was notorious for that, kind of starting slow and then finishing strong.
Yeah.
That's how he would do it into games even. But and what's funny you mentioned that is like the timing of it is, didn't UNLV give up 350 on the ground to Wyoming last week?
So I'm not like necessarily like making a super bold prediction.
No, but I'm saying that like it just makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of things are kind of pointing in that direction, which means since it's college football, all of this will be wrong.
I know. It will.
I think everything is kind of, everything is trending toward that.
Yeah.
Like it'll be very difficult for it not to trend that way.
I just think that while the sample size on Robert Mahone is small, he's only averaging about 12.5 carries per game. He has shown that he can be kind of an explosive and consistent running back for that matter, because in some of the recent games he doesn't have a 60-yard run that's really kind of skewing his average yards per carry. He's done a lot of work between 0 and 20 yards, I would say.
Yeah.
But his average yards per carry is 5.8 right now, and so of the 5 years Harsin's the coach, there's 4 months each season, so we got +1 this year. So of the 21 months that Harsin has been a head coach, like in the season, Robert Mahone had the 5th best month based off of yards per carry by Boise State's starting running back. I mean, so there are some numbers there that I just think that he hasn't gotten a ton of carries, so we're kind of maybe overlooking the fact that he's not on pace for 1,000, any of this stuff. But for a Boise State starting running back, he actually might be slightly ahead of where some of the other guys were when they hit 1,000, and there is some explosion in his game. I would love to see if he could take 25 carries week after week after week, because that does take a unique player, a Jay Ajayi. I mean, it takes Alexander Madison. I mean, those are special dudes.
And it looked like he was capable of it after Florida State.
It did, but
and then he got dinged up against Marshall. Okay,
so there you go, and that's exactly what I mean. Like, can you do it 1 week and then 2 weeks and then 3 weeks for the remainder of the season? There's one more bye, but week after week after week, I mean, your body takes a beating, man.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to see. That's probably one of the things that I'll definitely be paying attention to over the next couple of weeks, to see if Robert Mahone can get this thing going and get to 1,000 yards. And I still personally believe that he does. I think the streak continues this year, despite the fact he is on pace at the moment for 864.
Okay, well, I think eventually he'll be on pace for 1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, I get to 1,000 who knows, but eventually I think he'll be on pace, because I can just see with this game, they'll get him running.
Yep.
But then if they get a lead going, he'll just he'll carry it a bunch of times in the third quarter, something like that, and have one of those games where you end up with 150, and then he's kind of back close to pace.
But the streak also is meaningless and doesn't help recruiting.
The 1,000.
Any of that stuff.
No one ever talks about it over there. Except for the guys that run the ball.
Yeah,
they're very cognizant of it.
Oh, we don't really talk about it. Hey, you guys know about it? Yeah, we know about it.
Yeah, that was hilarious. that was exactly like
I think the coaches who don't want to add the pressure on them trying to get to that mark, but the players are ready to embrace it. You do not want to be the running back that snaps that thing. You don't, because it is something that is very impressive.
And someone asked me after week 1, I think, in the mailbag, and it was like, what are the odds that they continue having a 1,000-yard back? And I was like 95%. That's what I said after week 1. And it was so dumb, because I should have added like two words.
If they stay healthy.
Barring injury.
Okay. Say if they stay healthy. I need like 4 words.
If they stay healthy. So it's double what I know. But like,
you're
barring, it's like barring injury. you know? And so, and of course, then he got dinged up against Marshall, and I was like, oh, crap. But I still think one of them will. He's more likely than Holani. But
I think Holani's really special, but you're just getting to the point in the season. And again, you want to talk about history. Brian Harsin leans on one back.
Yeah, and
that's what it is.
And all this stuff, you know, sometimes during the fall camp and stuff, when you talk to coaches, they might be blowing smoke a little bit. But what they said with the running backs is what has happened exactly. They were like, it'll probably be by committee. They like 3 guys. They'll usually kind of have, you know, 2 get most of the carries, but have a third there for situational stuff. Eventually, they said, you know, like part of the reason they do that is one of them emerges. That seems to be Mahone, which he did already game 1, but you can all see this happening. It's like, oh, that's kind of exactly what they said was going to happen, and it has. And I'm sure for them, they're A-okay with that, because if that was their game plan, then they've been able to do it so far.
Well, the other storyline in terms of this offense that it's about it's almost something we can't avoid, and it's also something that I feel like we've probably talked about ad nauseum, and that is the fact that Hank Bachmeier continues to get hit.
Oh yeah.
We're here for going into week 5, which means it's the 5th straight week we've talked about how tough Hank is and how he takes too many hits. And I gotta say, I don't know if I see it changing a ton, other than the fact that UNLV can't get after the passer. I mean, they've struggled mightily to get after the passer this year. They had 4 sacks in their first game, which was against an FCS opponent. Since then, they've had 2 sacks in 3 games. They rank, again, near the bottom of the country when it comes to pressuring the quarterback. So I do think that this is a chance for Boise State to make it look much better before they go into the Hawaii game next week. And
if, as has been alluded to but not guaranteed, that maybe that starting 5 from Florida State will be back this week.
I feel like, I mean, even listening to Brian Harsin at his mid-weekly press conference today or media session today, I don't know, you go back and you kind of listen to it, and he definitely said that he's hoping that they can get it looking like it was week 1.
Right.
I would put stock in that. I don't know why you just suggest that.
Yeah, and also too, when you have, you know, an arrow in your quiver like Molchon, I think it helps. I mean, you know, again, you know, and it's so funny, like what we talk about, and I'm glad they're at least the things that people ask me about are the ones that we talk about. Again, what I'll have in my mailbag is about that topic, is about Hank getting hit, about the O-line, that I think most of it does fall on the O-line, but not all of it.
It does.
Not all of it. It really, I mean, like, and I'm not trying to, like, apologize for anybody. I think there's always been sometimes certain factions that might think the media just needs to just destroy one coach, Kent Riddle. But, you know, you know, and Bedell's that guy. But Scott Huff was that guy here. Everyone always, you know, was like, oh, the O-line. Yes, I think most of it does fall on them. But some of that is you have a true freshman quarterback who still is adjusting the speed of the game, still figuring things out, who throws the deep ball very well. You might be thinking about that a little too much. I looked it up. You're the stat guy. I'm the stat apprentice. In terms of the quarterbacks that have played in 4 games or less, Hank's number 2 in terms of 20-yard completions. Only one guy has more, and it's one more, and it's Joe Burrow from LSU, who has been phenomenal this year. He's the only one who's had more than Hank.
And same stat. You want to compare it to last year? Boise State's on pace to have about 25 more 20 or more yard completions than they did last year. That's close to a 30-40% increase in explosive pass plays versus last year. And
so if you're a power hitter, right? We're going to cross sports here, but if you're a power hitter,
I love baseball,
and a ball's coming in, your main thought might be like, oh, I'm going to send this into the bleachers, when maybe the right thing is to get on top of it and, you know, just and advance a runner. You know what I mean?
Put that thing between first and second, get it over there, shoot it the other way, so the guy from second can get over to third, you know, with less than, you know.
That might be the play. But if you just discovered that you're this power hitter and you're just like, oh,
just drop bombs. Your
first thing is not necessarily going to be that. That takes a little bit of time.
It does,
and that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah,
and so
there is an absolute give and take in holding on to the ball a little bit too long and completing some of these big pass plays. And heck, they've been really close on a few more big pass plays that hit on Hank at the last second might have just barely thrown off a pass, just a little bit. There was the one in the first half to CT where Hank let it go, and they were backed up inside their own 20, and the Air Force DB just got a finger on it, CT in midfield.
Yeah.
So it's things like that. They've been close on even more.
It was Thiel, that safety. His dad was the one that tweeted me and was talking about how nice the Boise State fans were.
Oh,
for what it's
funny.
worth.
I didn't.
Yeah. It was Grant Thiel, and his dad tweeted me and was like, could not rave more about you people. So good job.
Cool.
Good job, Boise State.
But, even things like this, like talking to John Bates today, and these are hard things to maybe make super interesting on a newscast, but when we can kind of talk about it a little bit and put, different pieces together, it's more fun and informative. John Bates last year ran, so when it was a pass play, he ran out for a route something like 70% of the time. This year it's closer to 80% of the time. And some of these things are subjective when you watch film. I'm not saying that some of the stuff we come up with is 100% by any means. But I did ask John today, and he was like, oh yeah, like last year I would definitely stay in pass pro more than I'm doing this year. Okay, so what does that mean? That means you have one less blocker on some of these pass plays too.
Yes.
And that's, if you really start to try to get this whole thing together and put the pieces to the puzzle together so you get a clearer picture, there really is a lot more to this than just the play of the offensive line. It's certain stunts that aren't just confusing the offensive line. It might be confusing the running back that needs to pick something up specifically. And if you go back and you watch these things, you will notice them. You look for them, you will notice them. When
you mentioned even the tight ends, people are always like, "Why aren't tight ends involved in the passing game more?" Well, when they are, it comes at a little bit of a cost, right?
Yeah.
And I was listening. Warren Sharp Football. He was talking about the Patriots sometimes would do that, and they'd put in a tight end, which even if they weren't necessarily blocking, or they kind of would just put an arm on someone. For a rush end to go around, it's a little bit longer of a path. Even if that guy ends up going on a route, if that guy sticks in there. So if you just have a tight end in there, just even there, that might make a fraction of a second difference. If that tight end's immediately going or he's split out, you lose that a little bit.
Yep.
That's just how it is.
There are things like that. There's more to this. And one thing that might be getting lost in this, other than the fact that, man, that kid's tough, is the fact that, and Zach Hill said this yesterday, by doing the things that he does, and I mean, some quarterbacks, they definitely fit the stereotype that they might be a little soft, they don't like to get hit, whatever. Hank is on the other end of that spectrum, man. He doesn't care. He doesn't slide. He dives. He's head first into everything, and they say they got to get some of that under control. But one thing you do by playing in the way he plays is you start to really win over the hearts of all these players around you. And now all of a sudden they want to play harder for you. And I know that even kind of sounds like a sports cliche, but it is absolutely true. If you have a quarterback back there that, you got guys that want to run through the wall for him, it will make a difference. Same goes for your head coach. Same goes for just about any guy that's on your team. You're going to play harder for guys that like that. You will. And that's something that I don't think can be undervalued. And I think that we've already seen it at times this year.
I remember when I was a very young Cub reporter at Colorado, we had a really, really good young quarterback named Craig Oakes, and he used to do that too. This is why I'm offering just a little bit of a warning. Okay. He, after a game, there's one game he just got pummeled, and he goes, "Well, if I wanted to slide, I would have played baseball." He ended up transferring.
Easy, Craig.
He ended up transferring from CU and eventually stopped playing football because of concussions. Oh, wow! But I remember that quote, thinking that's badass. But Bachmeier, I think, will be smarter about that. Yeah. But
you don't want it to get to that point. Right. You're totally right, Dave. As fun and entertaining as it can be at times, that is the point that you don't want to get to. And I think that Boise State has a lot of confidence in their backup quarterback in Chase Cord. But we're also talking about the health and safety of a player.
Sure, of course.
You just don't want it to get to that point.
But also on the same token, you can be smart with it, and you don't always have to slide. Even last year when I forget what game it was, but the one where Rippon was running a couple times, where he hurdled a dude, remember he jumped the dude. Yeah. He wasn't sliding then. No. And that's something he.
You know what I'm waiting for?
And they talk about his savvy and stuff. So he was doing it, but he was doing it smart. And I think that's what Hank's going to continue to learn to do.
You know what I'm waiting for? And Brett, almost every year that he was here, he had a reception. He actually had a touchdown reception when he started as a true freshman at UNLV back in 2015 on Halloween. He threw for 2, caught 1.
The best helmet look they've ever had.
That was sweet.
Best ones they've had.
My only my only complaint about the new black helmets is they can't do that. Now they do have like the black eye.
Yeah.
So like there could be like something that they could still do with the orange face mask, and maybe that'll come in time. But anyways, I'm waiting for them to throw a ball to Hank.
Yeah.
Because I mean, this kid's tough. He can take a hit. It's inevitably going to happen.
Yeah.
And they almost tried to do last game.
Was
Khalil Shakir.
Was he in or was Cord?
I believe it was Hank.
Okay. So there you go.
I'll go back and check for sure, but I think Hank was in.
So they almost did.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they almost did.
Yeah.
It might happen.
And I'm waiting for it to happen.
Like Hank can't run quite like Chase.
No,
but
he's light on his feet though.
He's run. We've seen him pull it down. So he's definitely okay.
I'm waiting for it to happen. That's by the way, that is zero prediction. I got no clue.
Quarterback speed rankings. It's like okay, he's faster than Rippon.
But the only list Kellen Moore is at the bottom. Bottom of is that one.
Yep, he was. Yeah.
There you go. Moore, Rippon. It'd be interesting to see. Probably Hedrick's got to be at the top of that thing.
Hedrick's got to be number 1.
Yeah.
Hedrick ran for more than 100 yards, I think, twice.
Yeah.
And so, at least once.
Mm-hmm. I think it was twice.
He ended up with like 500 net rushing yards that season. That's net. That's including because in college football they take away your rushing yards from sacks.
One of the dumbest stats there is. I don't know why that's the case.
He was their second best runner behind Jay that year.
Not me, Jay Ajayi. Confusion, I get it. It's not me. It was Jay Ajayi.
But I think it'll be interesting to see them potentially dig into the bag of tricks. Because they've always done it down in Vegas. Now I think about it.
There's been a little something.
Talk about that. I mean, I remember like I think it was against, there's like some trickeration against Washington.
I was actually going through some of the old highlights today, and even in that game, they ran actually it was more of an end around to Shane Williams Rhodes, friend of the Bronco Roundup Game Day Show.
Friend of the program.
And I remember, he kind of went in like a little touchdown drought after that, I think. But they always pull out a little flavor, roll the dice, if you will, down in Las Vegas.
You ever heard that? It might be apocryphal. It might not have actually happened. The Kellen Moore story.
I think it is. You
think it's real? I forgot to ask him.
I feel like it has to be real.
He puts it down on the 11.
Yeah, he's playing roulette,
and it hits.
Playing roulette. Hits 11,
and he left his money on there, and it hit it again.
So he gets his winnings, and he takes them.
Right.
But he never removes the money that he placed on the original bet.
Okay, so 35-1 twice.
Yeah, twice in a row.
The odds of that.
35 times 35, right?
I don't know. It's probably some weird number that I can't comprehend.
Actually, it's probably got to be more than. It's got to be more than that.
So that's again, we want to talk about St. Kellen.
1,000,000 to 1, probably.
Yeah.
To do it twice in a row, same number.
Only him.
Yeah,
only that guy.
Most accurate passer ever. Actually, Grant Hedrick is more accurate than him.
Yeah, there was. Do you remember you did a story on Hedrick?
Yeah.
When he was at Oregon State.
Yeah.
It was perfect. It worked out great. I remember I wrote something, but you actually went and actually followed him.
Yeah.
I remember one of the first comments was, I hope he is more accurate with his sidearm than with his throwing. Yeah. It's like the dude had the most accurate season in school history.
Accurate passer in school history. Yeah. He's one of that guy. I didn't think we were going to go down that path right now, but he is one of, if not the most underrated quarterback probably in school history.
Yes.
His time as a starter wasn't that long, so he doesn't get like this huge body of work in terms of these gaudy career numbers. But man, was he good in 2014.
And he was a great quote for my story on Kellen.
Yeah,
he was a great quote.
I think that we're excited to get down to Las Vegas. We'll put it in the rearview mirror for now. I think the Broncos go down there to take care of business, no doubt. But you do bring up Grant and Kellen Moore, and there was kind of a fun story that you recently worked on. I didn't want to. Kind of a fun story. That took some work, I would assume.
Yeah, it did. I mean, like I talked to Grant in like late July, just knowing I was eventually going to do this story on Kellen. I didn't know when, and his responses were really good. And so I was kind of like, all right, this is a good jumping off point. And then fall camp happens, and you don't know if what if Dallas was going to be crappy on offense? I don't know. And once we started, I think it was after the first game, I really started trying to ramp it up again more. Into and then I kind of always wanted to figure out like how popular of a birth name Kellen was. And so since 1960, every year the Social Security Administration has a list of top 100 names for each state. So I manually went through since 1960. It's the furthest back it goes. 2 different years. Kellen's senior year and the year after. The only 2 years ever was top 100 for boys names in Idaho. I mean, that is inextricable. That is a link. And so once I saw that, I kind of had an idea of at least one of the guys I talked to, and then kind of searched around, and then I talked to one, and he goes, "Oh, my buddy named his kid," and so kind of went that way with it, and it was pretty fun. And I embedded some of the commercials he's done, and of course there was a new one that came out today. Well, I mean, I don't know if it had been out before or not.
I don't think it's hit the airwaves yet.
Because they'd announced this summer that Leighton was going to do them.
Yeah, there is one that already is out, but it wasn't nearly as kind of funny or humorous as this most recent one. And Kellen's there, and Gary's there.
Yeah, it doesn't mention Gary.
It doesn't mention Gary, but that's what I kind of love about it. Is Gary's just kind of like sitting there quietly at a table, but him and Kellen are in the same room. Yeah,
I was going to make a joke after that not fun Sunday night game between Dallas and New Orleans. I was going to be like, that's why Dallas didn't score as many points. I was just going to put up a picture of Gary, their OC. Yeah. But it was. I mean, the
you would have got killed for that here in Boise.
I probably would have. I thought it would have been funny.
Take his blue check away.
and sometimes, as much as he won't admit it, he has a Twitter account, and he sees stuff sometimes on Twitter. So I'm sure my luck, that would have been like the first thing he saw. Like, you moron. I'm like, I'm sorry.
I think you look at some of the other teams around the state, Dave. There's going to be a really entertaining fall out there in Caldwell.
Yeah. That team is something else.
The Yotes went out and absolutely hammered Rocky Mountain, 42-0 on the road. It's like their first shutout since the late 70s or something. I kind of love their stats because there was there was a huge gap where they weren't even playing football.
Since 1969, you're like,
well, they haven't played since
1970.
Whatever. Right. I still find it awesome and fun, and they've won 10 straight now and haven't lost in over a year, and we've kind of beaten that stat to death, but I will continue to say it because it's an amazing accomplishment.
If you said that about Boise State,
people going crazy.
People say, don't jinx it.
Yeah.
They'd say, don't jinx it.
Yeah.
I get that a lot. Where you're just like, hey, last time this happened, don't jinx it. Well, I'm sorry, because I put it out in the world that you can blame me. But no, I mean, C of I, man, I mean, that's awesome. Just from a program that was non-existent to being where they are now after, oh God, what has it been, 6 years? I mean, to be top 10 team now. Yeah. And to the point where it does seem like this is sustainable for them.
Oh, they got staying power for sure.
That's pretty awesome.
Darius James Peterson, their quarterback, is very good, and he's a senior, and they'll have a tough time replacing him next year. Ryan Hibbs, former Capital quarterback, is out there right now. Recently underwent some surgery, so he's truly going to redshirt this year, which makes complete sense to me because now he'll have 4 years to really make a run at that starting quarterback gig and keep it for a while, like Darius James Peterson. I can't remember if I mentioned this last week on the podcast or not, but Daniel Jones had a great performance for the New York Giants in week 1. He rallied from an 18-point deficit to lead the Giants to a victory over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The only quarterback making his first NFL start to overcome a greater deficit in the history of the NFL is Mike Morawski. Went out there and I talked to Coach Mo about it last week, and I saw a picture of it on ESPN, and there was a little graphic, and it had 3 names on it, and Mike Morawski's at the top, and I'm thinking, like, come on, there can't be that many Mike Morawskis that played quarterback in the NFL. So I took a shot of it, and I texted Coach Mo, and he's like, yep, that's me. And he's like, I honestly had no clue that I still held that record. No clue. Yeah. And then we went into the game itself a little bit, and he goes, well, one thing I remember is the night before, I threw up a lot. And I go, were you sick or nervous? And he goes, well, I never really threw up before because I was nervous. But I think it was a combination of both. And again, all I remember is I threw up a lot. It was just so funny. How adamant he was about that. And it's just, it's cool because, he's so focused on his team right now, and I get that. But, man, I can't help but think, like, how genuine and cool that moment was. That's got to be something that still lives with him today, whether he really recognizes it or not, and is a reason why he's so passionate about still being around the game, coaching the game, and found some old video of it too.
Oh, cool.
It's crazy. He had like a Hail Mary right before halftime. It was neat.
I thought you were going to go with you're like, I thought you were going to tie it in and be like, you know who else was making their first start and came down from 18 points down?
Who?
It was Hank Bachmeier.
Oh, Hank, yeah.
I thought you were going. I thought that's where you're going, and then you mentioned the NFL, and I was like,
versus college.
The NFL. No,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
How about
Idaho's playing well.
Idaho's playing well. They barely lost out on the road last week. They had a chance to finish off Northern Colorado. They just couldn't do it. Mason Petrino had a couple late picks in that game. Nick Romano, Rocky Mountain alumnus, $132 on the ground on 15 carries as a true freshman running back. Really had his coming out party, I think, for the Idaho football team. And I think he's going to be a guy that they definitely get more involved moving forward. They just couldn't finish that one off. Tough one.
You don't go to Greeley, and it's never easy there.
It's never easy in Greeley.
And
doesn't really rhyme.
And if you catch it on the right day, you might be puking on the sideline because it does not smell good.
You're right. That place does not smell good.
It does not.
Yeah, when we went to Fort Collins a couple of years ago, first time going through Greeley. What's going on there again?
There's like I think it's like a slaughterhouse type thing.
Okay. And not good.
And yeah, depending what the way the winds shift. Ooh boy.
Uh-huh. Okay, are we ready for this one, by the way?
Yeah. What's up?
The roar making its return. I don't know if you see, there's a billboard that says the roar right outside of KTVB that Idaho State put up. I feel like we still need to trademark that or somehow get royalties because I really think we made it a thing. But the Bengals had a few people reach out to me on Twitter this week saying we got to talk about the Bengals. The Bengals rolled Portland State 51-24.
Yeah.
And they got up big at halftime. I want to say it was like 41-10 or something at halftime. 41-10 at halftime. And they improved to 2-2 on the season. They pick up a win in their Big Sky Conference opener. Their quarterback had a monster day. Matt Struck, 16-25, 343, and 6 touchdowns.
20 yards of completion, 6 TDs.
That is a day at the office, man.
Yeah, and he's going to be a starter now because, especially with Gunnar Amos deciding not to keep playing football. So it's a good start.
Yeah. I'm just glad we could hit on them. We are getting to a great point in time of the year, and we're nearing the end of this edition of Jay and Dave Sports Bar. The postseason play begins, the MLB level. So this means that we're kind of getting to the point in time of the year where we have something to watch that's good, or we'll hold our attention every night, whether it be Monday Night Football, whether it be Thursday Night Football, college or pro.
Friday night UCF and Cincinnati are playing.
I'm really looking forward to that game. What's that?
Twins Yankees is Friday too.
Twins Yankees, but that's what I mean. Like we're filling in the gaps here. NBA starts before long. NHL is underway. There's always going to be something going on in the sports world. We've hit that point in time of year, and pretty soon we'll start carving pumpkins and put on a hoodie the other day, and I just kind of like this time of year. I don't know. It's a good time of year.
I'm rocking the hoodie today already. So.
Yeah. Do you steal that from your dad?
No, my dad was wearing it. It was mine.
So your dad stole it from you?
Yeah.
So you stole it from your dad?
Yeah, stole it back. Yeah.
Your parents are going to be down in Las Vegas.
They will be.
That'll be fun.
They will be.
I was bummed, man. Last Monday, didn't have any. I didn't have any.
No softball, nothing
game.
to do.
Yeah, I played some golf. My first time I played a round of golf in at least 18 months.
Yeah.
And that was fun, but. Did kind of a charity event, but I was kind of bummed I didn't have any softball game.
Me and my dad went out and played at Banbury.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Last Monday, I think.
How'd you shoot?
Good front nine. Really good front nine.
Okay.
After that, I don't recall. It wasn't great.
Yeah, because you don't want to recall.
I should have just stopped.
I rented clubs. My clubs are old. And I have finally I finally convinced my wife that I need new clubs and that new clubs will make a big difference.
Yeah.
Man, it's like swinging with butter. Like it really is. Like I hadn't played in a while, but the new clubs they kind of have weight on the bottom of them.
Uh-huh.
And oh man, it's so much better than
you're using
the 25-year-old
mashy niblicks and
metal sticks that I'm working with. Blah.
They're wood.
Basically, I'll leave you with this. My dad actually has a set of wood pings.
Okay.
And they are beautiful. My dad's like the type of guy that he takes care of stuff, He really does. He's got he's got like the original Ray-Bans, and they still look like he went over to Sunglass Hut and bought them yesterday or whatever. He takes care of stuff. So these woods, I'm like, Dad, you need to like sell these to a collector. He's like, well, they're not going to play with them. I'm like, no, they'll put them on display. They're beautiful.
Yeah, people in like dens and stuff like that. People do that. Oh yeah.
So we'll see if he actually takes my advice on that.
Maybe if we actually open our own sports bar, we can just put them on display.
There it is. Wait, this isn't a. We're not. Oh no, we're not. One day when somebody says, "Hey, are you serving beer, or drinks, or whatever?" One day we're gonna slide one in. And put it down there because we can't drink.
It's going to be like cocktail to slide it across this table.
Maybe during the summer or something, we can take this show on the road and actually have a little fun or something. I don't know.
I would not be against that.
Yeah. It won't happen in Las Vegas because we're going to be busy at work. I leave on Friday afternoon. We actually leave about the same time, but I like the scenic route, so I want to make sure that I stop somewhere. I don't care where it is before I land in Vegas.
Yeah, flying between here and Las Vegas, there's not exactly a lot of things to look at out the window.
No, so I'd get over to the coast, Oakland, San Diego, somewhere over there. I want to swing by and then head on over.
Fly over Death Valley.
That too. It's the best. It's the best. I checked in for my flight on Southwest, by the way, about an hour late. So I'm only in category P1991.
Okay.
So
there's room in the overhead for you.
Yeah, I'll basically, I don't even know where that is. I don't get how that works with Southwest. You can check in 4 seconds after you're allowed to, and it's like B42, and you're like, how? This is the early check. Who is cheating this?
It's the early check-in weirdos.
Jerks. You know, it's not a jerk. Dave Southern of The Athletic. Look forward to seeing you down there in Las Vegas, buddy. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll see if the Boise State football team can continue to keep it rolling. You got anything you want to tease between now and kickoff that
my mailbag,
our listeners should look out for?
Yeah, my mailbag's running Friday. Okay. And so got some questions from people who listen to this podcast in there, like our buddy Dayton I mentioned.
Nice.
That always hits on a couple topics, and they're usually kind of the ones that it kind of covers like whatever the fans are kind of talking about, and kind of hit it later in the week. So
perfect.
So that'll be a good one.
Bronco Roundup Game Day Show. It starts 7 to 8 o'clock. We'll probably even get you a little closer to kickoff, which isn't until about 8:30. Got a lot of stuff coming your way. We're also going to look back at Louis' performance, which everybody's still raving about, including Mr. Louis. Not necessarily to us, but bragging about it to his teammates, which it seems like all in good fun.
And I had a story on him run this morning, so it's perfect timing.
Perfect. All right. Well, that will do it for this edition of Jay and Dave's Sports Bar, serving the Idaho sports scene. We'll see you next week, everybody.